Think it. All right, good deal. What's up, buddy?
How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Great.
Dustin, introduce yourself, brother.
My name is Dustin Raymer. Grew up Oxford, Roxborough area, so I'm familiar with this area of town. Went to East Carolina University, bachelor's and a master's in exercise physiology. I'm a power lifter, at least I am for a little while. Hopefully be competitive here soon again. But I power lifted for 12 years. Career-wise, I've worked in corporate wellness, taking care of employees' health, like on-site gym, on-site health coaches, personal trainers, things like that. I've worked in the hospital setting, cardiac rehab, cardiac diagnostics, stress testing, cardiopulmonary stress test, cath lab stuff. Now I'm working as the health and wellness center director at a community center. A little bit of everything.
Very good. I've known you as powerliftingnerd.
Yeah.
Instagram,
powerliftingnerd.
That's a great Instagram name.
Yeah.
Dude, it's like every time when I see somebody and I think of their Instagram name, I'm like, that's a great Instagram
It worked.
name.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
It works.
And I didn't put much thought into it. I changed it one day and I was like, we're going to stick with it.
They're like, who's next on your podcast? I'm powerliftingnerd. And they're like, oh, okay, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
So
it sticks.
Yes, it does. So tell me how you got into lifting to begin with, like your first introduction into the gym. How did that even happen?
Well, like gym was like back in like middle school, 8th grade. We had this thing, this is when I was in Granville County schools, where the 8th graders would go work out with the high schoolers after school, like 2 days a week.
What school is this?
This is Northern Middle School.
And you were going to
Webb.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So this is back in the day. It may be different now.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did like 2 days a week, and it was not done well at all. It was more like, here's like 5 or 6 of these 8th graders who have potential, and they threw us in the mix with like freshmen up to seniors, and we were just like watching them and just following them along. So nothing was technique, nothing, but we did it. And then progressed to like I went to high school up in person where we had strength and conditioning courses or classes, and so that itself was my first like real strength training and seeing progress made. But then went to college, and even though I was an exercise major, didn't do any lifting like all undergrad. Played basketball, that's about it. And so then senior year of undergrad, I had an internship at East Carolina's Human Performance Lab, which we worked real close with like a lot of grad students. And so that's when I started seeing powerlifting. And that's when I really got in love with like the programming of it, the success of it, seeing your numbers climb, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's when it started.
Before you get into too much of that, I want to get into that phase where you were in middle school and you were going to high school, and you said it wasn't done very well.
Yeah.
I would like to maybe, what would you do if you were running something like that? How would you do that and make it run efficiently and effective so that these kids are getting the gains, the strength gains, everything, so it works, favorably? How would you fix that?
Yeah, I mean, it was good that they had that. Like most schools, you wouldn't have that. Most schools, they would say, wait till 9th grade, then you go. But I mean, if you really think about it, if a kid, whether they're 5 years old or 14 in 8th grade, mentally are ready for the gym, they can do it. Physically isn't the catch; it's the mental aspect.
Right.
And so, you would think, or should be, some sort of education around the training before you just put them in the gym. What's proper etiquette? Like what's safe etiquette? What's the point of these lifts? What's the goal here? A little bit of education, kind of like a PE course maybe, not necessarily in the gym, but sitting at a table. And then in terms of getting those 8th graders over to that 9th plus, graders sessions, the catch was the only ones who went were either parents who could get them out of there, or you just happened to ride a bus over there. So like 90% of us couldn't do it. And so, I would have it parsed out where you would have to, require some sort of like pre-entry.
Okay.
Come a couple Saturdays, then you can come with the bigger group, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's tough too, because kids sometimes they need a very detailed and needs to be very thought out to get them even in the gym, and then to progress further to see progress. It's got to be goal oriented, all those things you were just talking about. So yeah, that's interesting. So you went to East Carolina after that. You're playing basketball. Things progressed, you got your master's, and then you started lifting, getting into powerlifting for real. What did you get out of that? Or why did you start taking it more serious, a little bit more in depth? Was there something you were, I don't know, you felt like it would bring you?
No,
Yeah.
I wish there was. I
Right.
wish there was like this like deep innate like void I had to powerlifting the field. I mean, it may be. I'm unaware of it.
Right.
But I mean, I think competition, because a lot, high school sports, like for a vast majority, 90+% of kids who do compete in high school sports, like when you're done, you're done. Like there's no more football games, there's no more true basketball games, there's no more true baseball games, track meets, they're gone. You're done. So it could have been that. It could have been this like void of competition. But no, it was just like I said, undergrad. It was just like rec center basketball. I maybe lifted some dumbbells here and there.
Right.
But that senior year, one of the grad students, he had a friend opening up a powerlifting gym, and he was just like, for his grand opening, he's putting on a meet. It was an unsanctioned meet, like wear a t-shirt and shorts, nothing, shoddy judging anyway, whatever. and we went there, and like, I think I totaled 1,100 pounds. I weighed in at 168. And so, like, that is what bit me. It was like, okay, this is pretty cool. Like, I wasn't the best, clearly the best, but
you're pretty good at it.
It worked.
Yeah.
I deadlifted 475.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then 3 months later, he had a sanction meet at that location, and I totaled 1,200. So like in 3 months, 100 pounds on my total. And so like seeing that quick progress, it really like got me in a routine of like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah, that's one of the things I've noticed with training people, and we'll get into that a little bit more. But they need to see that progress to get bit by that kind of snake and really dive into it a little bit deeper.
For sure.
Yeah, so powerlifting, and now talk about where because you're still powerlifting, and we have a little setback, and like I said, we'll get to that. But you're still into it heavy. Where do you see maybe you going with that, or is there an end goal, or is it something you want to do for a long time, or what's your idea with it?
Well, the cool part, and this is why I always tell people like why I like powerlifting and why I suggest powerlifting. There really is not. There's no end, right? So like if you told me, what my goal is to squat 500 pounds. Okay, we do that. Why not 505? Like, why not that extra little bit? And so, like right now, like everything I'm working with is in like the 40 to 50 percentile of previous maxes. We're way away from like being competitive. I will do a meet in the future. It's gonna happen. But am I gonna be competitive? Highly unlikely. And so then that, I guess, that begs the question is like, why would you compete if you're not gonna be competitive? And it may be that bug thing. Like I want the excitement of like going there and like showcasing what I can do.
Training for 6 months or whatever, having that daily routine where every day you get better and you get better and better, and then at the end is a payoff.
Correct.
And the payoff that's fun.
Yeah.
And then you get to go bask in that for a couple of weeks, and it's back to the grind again. Something fun about that.
Yeah, it's cliche and all. It's like the process. Like enjoy the process. There's beauty in the progress, and there's the ups and downs too. Like everybody's gonna have like that down day where something you could hit for 10, now you can barely do it for 5, but next week you do it for 8. And so it's just you're gonna have those up and downs. That's the fun thing about it, is finding out why that happened. Was it my food from 2 days ago? Was it sleep from last night? Was it just finding out those puzzle pieces and then make it better next time.
Right, and sometimes, which is a crazy puzzle piece, it could just be a bad day.
Correct.
So that is the fun thing.
There's no answer to it. It's just like
sometimes it's not, but sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not.
And the gym's not gonna go anywhere. It'll be there tomorrow.
Right.
Next week.
Yes, we've already touched on it. Let's go ahead and get into it. You got injured pretty bad. I'll let you tell the story of how it happened. I do know bits and pieces. I don't know the full. I've never heard it from you.
I wish it was like I jumped off the roof or I was squatting 1,000 pounds.
Yeah.
No, we had back in April we had some trees removed in our backyard, and when you take away trees, it's just barren dirt. So we threw some grass seed out, brought some fresh dirt, laid it on top of it. We had sprinklers going, and I had moved the sprinkler 5 or 6 times. And it's just a small little 20-foot sprinkler, nothing. So I was just moving it. And I had worked out. We were getting ready to go to dinner, and I was like, I'm gonna move that sprinkler one more time. I'll move it because that spot over there needs it too.
Yeah.
And on the way out the house to go move it, I was like, no, we're gonna be late for dinner. I'm gonna just turn the water off. And I was like, no, you got time. So I walked down there, and like the sprinkler's sitting right there. I put my foot right beside it, and I bend over to grab the sprinkler, and my foot just slides. And it doesn't slide 30 feet. It slides 6 inches, but then my toe digs down and I fall backwards. And the distal tibia and fibula explode in my ankle. Like it wasn't clean break. It was like fragmentation, bits and pieces everywhere. I've got 17 screws, 2 plates. And I mean, you've seen I'm training now. It's great. But the injury itself, I was on the couch, like 0 weight bearing for 12 straight weeks. So take the injury out of the equation, just put yourself on the couch for 12 weeks. That sucks. But yeah, 12 weeks of no weight bearing, just sitting on the couch basically. When I did go weight bearing, it was about 6 weeks of progressing from 25% to 100, still in the boot. And then the weekend after July 4th was when I took the boot off for the first time. So you're talking just under 4 months now of just being allowed to take the boot off and walk. And so that's the progress for the last 6.5 months. Fell down to the ground. I had odd story. I had previously dislocated my finger January of this year. So my first thought was I just dislocated my ankle. So I grab it and I try to pull my ankle out, and that didn't work. Mainly because I felt 2 pieces of bone moving back and forth. So I'm laying there yelling for help. Get an ambulance ride. Get to the hospital. They reset it for about 15 minutes. They're lining it back up, put it back in place. It falls out. They line it up.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, big ordeal. Out of nothing. I was watering some dirt.
And yeah, so you've been out of the game 6 months.
Yeah,
you were out of the game 6 months. What was that like for your? Because one of the things I try to teach or I try to preach a little bit is fitness is more than about the physical. It's also about the mental. Sometimes some people come to the gym and they just want to de-stress from their day, or they want to, think about themselves for an hour because they have kids or whatever. So how was that effect on the mental side? I know it was a part of, you've been powerlifting for a long time, so it's been part of your daily regimen, but
I mean,
take a dive into that.
Powerlifting, before this was like, it's going to be 4 days a week, like rain or shine, sick, 4 days a week, whether I get in there and I just do my warm-ups and get out, or if I go in there and hit a PR and get out. So 4 days a week for the last 12 years, powerlifting. And then boom, like, even if I wanted to like crutch out to the gym and do upper body days, it wasn't happening. Like I could not.
Right.
Well, I'm medicated, so anytime I'm standing up, I'm dizzy. So for 12 weeks, it was good days, bad days. Good days in the sense of like could have been worse. What if I turned that sprinkler off, which made us leave earlier, and I was in a car accident? Anything could have happened. But on the bad days, there's tears. There's like you shut down. You don't even watch TV. You just don't want to. People come over to visit, and you're just like in your own world. So there was a lot of that. And then, honestly, the lack of powerlifting didn't creep in until I started like noticing like my leg was getting small. Both legs were getting smaller. I was like, oh, I'm not using these. They're getting smaller, which was like week 8 or 10. It really didn't sink in. I was like, oh man, like all that progress I made is gone now. And so the good news is, I was in a career position where like I did not have to worry about that. Like my job was secure. I was able to work from home when I needed to. Family wise, she's home 3 or 4 days a week already. So like tons of support there, meals, showers, whatever I need to do, bathroom visits, taking care of me for those.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all of it. So it was a lot better than it could have been.
Yeah. And you recently got married, and you've had another kid too, all in this kind of time frame, right? Because it seems like, when did you get married? It wasn't too long ago, was it?
Last September.
Yeah. And then you just had a kid.
Last month.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And so your wife is 8-9 months, 6 to 9 months pregnant during this whole time.
So back then she was probably 4 or 5 months pregnant and having to like, typically it would have been me helping her, making her meals, helping her and getting out of shower, bathroom breaks and stuff, but it was quickly reversed. But no, she obviously, huge part in it. And unfortunately it happened, but, given the time frame when it happened, had it happened last month, I don't know what we'd be doing right now.
Oh, yeah.
With a newborn or whatever else is down the line.
Yeah. So tell me about the newborn.
He's
Congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you. He's so I've got a 5-year-old too. So
right.
Only thing I have to do is compare. And she was not an easy baby.
Okay.
He's pretty smooth sailing. I mean, he's on a good routine. I mean, last week he was sleeping at 5.5 hours a night in a block, and then 3 or 4 in another block. So like we're getting 8, 10 hours of sleep a night.
Yeah, your girl seems to really enjoy having the newborn baby
She's
around.
very happy to have him.
Yeah.
She's if she comes and the nights we have her, she's not interested in what we're doing anymore. She wants to hold him, feed him, put him to bed, give him a bath. She opens up the diaper but won't change it yet. And she sees what's there and goes, okay, you're in. So yeah, I mean it's great. It's super wonderful.
Good for you. And so with your powerlifting, getting back to that and being in the lifting, you coach some people. You're very smart. I can just tell by the way you think. You're very smart. Period. Your brain is running on a different RPM mine is, but that's good. Whatever. So you're into coaching and helping people, and tell me about that process, because sometimes, dude, dealing with people is such a fine line. I always tell people it's like walking a tightrope, because you can go too far this way and you can go too far this way. You kind of want to stay on that tightrope the best you can, and that's a tough thing to balance. So, tell me about your experience with that and how that has helped you or changed you, or, what kind of challenges that presents to you.
Yeah, I mean, from a just training, coaching perspective, I started coaching or training in grad school, like at the Rec Center, personal training, just run of the mill. Like the person just signs up. I know nothing about them. They just sign up. So it could be weight loss, it could be muscle, it could be I'm training for a marathon, it could be anything. So that's my first experience with that. And so, from there all the way up to pretty much virtual powerlifting coaching. I mean, there's obviously all this stuff in the middle that like there is out in the world.
Right.
But like powerlifting coaching in itself, like you said, it's a fine line. You give them too much information. You talk about too much technique. You talk about too much of 8-10 weeks from now. But some people need that. They need that bigger picture. They need the technique work. And so, if I had my ideal scenario, I have a career. I've got 40, 50 hours I'm working over here. So, but perfect scenario would be I could see all these clients face to face, a couple times a week, and we could hone in on all that stuff when I see you, and to talk about the nitty and gritty virtually. But that's not the case. So somehow virtually you've got to critique that form of that video they sent you, tell them what the next week's program is going to be, explain why we're no longer going to do this lift because I think you need this one for the next 6 weeks to pick up this technique failure in your deadlift, whatever. It's tedious. It's more work, I think, than people, even the clients, sometimes think about. It's not as simple as, oh, you hit all your lifts last week. Great. We're just going to do this next week. I looked at your deadlift video and, your upper back rounded over. Everything else is great, but your upper back rounded. So let's work on strengthening that aspect of the lift. So we have to add in these things and take away these things. And so it's a long process. But comparing it to like personal training, I hate personal training. Like I hate it.
Why is that?
If my salary or my income is based on it, I hate it. If it's not, then I don't care that much. The problem
Why is that? Oh, I want to,
Let's say you don't like me.
Okay.
But I pay you.
Yeah.
Do you get rid of me or do you keep me?
That's interesting.
Right. I mean, and then the aspect too is like, first 5 or 6 sessions, I'm learning about you, who your kids are, what your interests are. What are we talking about on session 40? What are we talking about on session 50? What if I stop seeing weight loss if I go or strength gains? Well, are you not doing your job as my trainer, or am I not doing my job at home, food-wise and walking and extra stuff? So that's why I don't like personal training. Yeah. I can develop a program, and if you stick with it, you're going to get stronger. And that's it.
That's good. You kind of know your lane.
Yes.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Because I think I know my lane too, but my lane is dealing with people. I'm very good at dealing with people. And you seem to be very good at technique. Sure. Like the formula, whatever. I'm good with just dealing with people.
Just talk to people.
Right. And you pointed that out with what you just said. You're like, what are we talking about on 50? And I'm like, I'm just reading them, and I'm like, how are you feeling today? Whatever. Yeah. Sometimes I don't want to talk, and I'll just write out your program and say, this is what we got. And I'll let you go through it, and I'll watch you. If something looks bad, I'll correct you. If you got a question, I'll correct you. But Dude, that's such a difficult thing. People don't understand that.
Correct.
Well, and
Yeah.
you know, dealing with the techniques and stuff and finding things to work on this and that. That's also difficult. But
Yep.
I understand. Dude, you have a little niche right there, and that's interesting and good. How many people is it you're coaching? Because I know the last powerlifting meet I went to, you had 2 people there, right?
2 people there.
Yeah.
Right now, I don't actually have anybody preparing for a meet.
Yeah.
So there's nobody in midst of like coaching, powerlifting coaching.
Do you feel like you have to have some, like the next person you train, they have to be preparing for a meet?
I would like them to be.
Yeah.
I would like them. So,
Right.
so you know, if someone says, now I don't, I would take on someone who's like, look, I want to get stronger. I'm not ready for meet yet, but I want to get stronger. I would take them on. I just like there to be some sort of like, this is our target.
Goal.
Yeah.
Everybody needs a goal. Some
Yeah.
people don't have a goal though. They just like they just have this
Yeah.
idea. I want to be fit, but it's you put too much on them too quick. Sometimes
It scares them away.
yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that person, for an example, if they're like, I don't want to do a meet, I would still make them do a mock meet. I would say like, all right, great,
Okay.
I'll take you on, but like 12 weeks from now, we're doing a meet.
Nice.
Like in your gym, in your comfort zone, whatever, we'll do one. Just so that, again, we're working towards something. Like, you know, there's a, you know, way in the weeds here, but like there's a strength phase, the hypertrophy phase, there's the peaking phase, there's the recovery phase, all these phases of powerlifting. And like, you don't always have to be in this peak phase. You don't have to always be building to a meet. There's all the bigger part of your program is that recovery and that off-season stuff. But a lot of that, I can just hand you a sheet of paper with percentiles
right.
and say, you know, be good for 20 weeks.
Right.
Come see me for these 12 or these
Right.
16, whatever we agree upon.
Because if you hit the gas all year, you're going to burn out.
Correct. And that's a huge topic for powerlifting, and that's why powerlifters typically last 2 or 3 years at best. Most powerlifters, most good powerlifters are, you see them for 2 or 3 years, they'll flash, and then it's the next group of 2 or 3 year people. I'm, you know, going on 12 years now, but I've never like been the best, and I don't need to be the best.
You're just doing it for you, just to be better every day. But
correct.
You are pretty good, though. I'll give you credit on that. Your numbers are outstanding.
Right. I'm good. I feel like I'm good locally.
For sure. I mean,
locally.
yeah.
I've competed in worlds and national meets back in the day. But yeah, I think when you take, you know, someone like me, like best total 1610, same weight class, like there's people out there doing 2000, right?
Yeah.
And so those guys, like, they're great, but you may not know them 3 or 4 years from now because they have burnt out. And so I think that's that gas pedal always being down, and that's where you run into problems. Same thing with bodybuilding, same thing with any other sport. You know, if you play basketball year round, there's going to be some problems in a few years. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, super interesting, super good. You were talking about the powerlifting community, things that are going wrong with it. What are some other things you see that you do like in the community as far as it evolving, or things that you dislike? Dude, I love not the golf type, but social media. I know some people hate social media, and it can be bad if you're looking at the wrong stuff. But dude, I've learned so much because of social media. It's every day. If you fill your feed with positive stuff, learning stuff, you're gonna learn stuff. If you feed it, be Tiger Woods. It's like it's your first time playing golf. Just enjoy being out here and enjoy hitting the ball hard,
right,
or whatever. And so I think a lot of people. They come into it that mindset that they've got to be the person that's already, 1,600 total. It's like, no, get 1,000 pounds first.
Just finish the meet.
You know what I'm saying? Do a meet or go in the gym first.
Yeah.
So.
And that's the catch with powerlifting is like when you go in there and you're like, I'm my first meet. It's like, what should I expect? It's like, just be comfortable. Like, get comfortable. Finish the meet, meaning what finish the meet means is at least post 1 squat, 1 bench, 1 deadlift. If you miss all 3 on one of those, you don't even get a total. Like, that doesn't count.
Right.
And so, like, just finish the meet.
Right.
Post something. Finish the meet. Just know what to expect. You walk into any of the sport professions, bodybuilding, CrossFit, powerlifting, strongman, whatever. Like, when you go to like the athletes area, it's overwhelming. Like me, powerlifting. You walk in there. Like, one person's gym bag will take up this whole table. Mm-hmm. They got food, a cooler, gym bag, 3 different kind of shoes, wraps,
sleeves,
2 different shirts, sleeves. I mean, all their stuff. Times about 50 lifters. If it's your first time walking in there, you're like, it's a madhouse. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, just doing your first meet, just get out there, try it, with no expectations. I mean, that's usually, if I have a first timer, just don't even worry about your numbers. Like if you've hit 200 on squat in the gym, we're opening at 135. Like we are easily going to get on the board here,
Yeah.
and then we'll start getting closer.
Right, I got
There's
you.
no point in hitting your going crazy on your first meet. No point.
Nice, you're good at this, man.
I try.
You're good at this. You got a lane here.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I want to talk about your wife a little bit. So she's big into working out.
Yeah.
So tell me about her background, or what you know.
We should have her here tell you.
Yeah. Well, maybe one day. Just a brief, just a brief little background.
So her history, she grew up. She was volleyball is kind of her big thing.
Okay.
Her family owns like an AAU kind of volleyball program. She grew up, high school, went on to play at UNC, G, volleyball there, and so she was an exercise major undergrad as well. Then transferred to nursing later, but post that, I mean. Don't know what her drive is, but she fell in love with CrossFit.
I got you.
It could have been the competitiveness, it could have been the camaraderie team aspect of it, but whatever it was, it stuck. And so like that's been her sport or her fitness style. She's never really competed in CrossFit, but even now, like we've got a garage gym at home and it's set up. I've got my stuff, and she's got her more like WOD stuff. Right now she's obviously postpartum. She's not going in there doing like cleans and stuff, but it's set up though she can do her little rounds and timers and be done. And so her thing is get in, get quick, 20, 30 minutes, and that's her workout.
Yeah.
For now.
And your dad too? Your dad does some pretty impressive stuff here lately?
Yeah. I mean, ever since I was an undergrad and like my family knew I was going to exercise physiology, I'm sure you've had this too. Family members are like, "Can you write me a workout? Can you write me a workout?" Yeah. And historically, I've probably written my parents or family members dozens of workouts since 2006. Every couple of years, can you write me a new workout? So whether they do them or not, I won't say it. But eventually, clearly, it stuck. I mean, he's like, because I was like, "Hey, we found this gym. This is like right in the pandemic." I was like, "We found this gym. It's not far from y'all's house. It's the only one that's like, still taking new people in. You should come." And so he comes, and like the first me and him were working out. And then my schedule got off. He started having to do some stuff, during the summertime. So his got off, but he kept coming, which is what I thought was not going to happen because I thought it was me coming that was helping, which may have helped him get off the ground.
For sure.
But then, he started coming, and the mornings tend to work out, I guess, better for him. And he's lost whatever, 60 plus pounds.
Yeah,
now.
He looks great.
Yeah, looks really good.
What's his age?
60.
Yeah, he did this all within like 2 years or whatever.
Last couple of years, yeah.
Man, so and that's one thing too, especially with the older community. They're like, "Oh, well, I'm this age. I just can't do it," or
too far gone.
It's too far gone. And it's like, no, you're not.
Correct.
No, you're not.
Correct.
You can move. You can get in here and move. We have a silver sneaker class, shameless plug, every Tuesday and Thursday at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For some of you seniors out there that need to get in shape or want to move a little bit, we can help you out there.
Yeah, I mean, building a little bit of muscle goes a long way. And it matters more the older you are.
It goes back to that progress thing. If you see a little bit of progress, who doesn't like success?
Correct.
Who doesn't?
Correct.
And if I can just get you to see that first little inkling of success, and sometimes that still doesn't do it because it's effort and work and all that. But
convenience.
Right. Yeah. But if you can see that first little bit of success, man, you're hooked.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean. Again, going back to personal training, and there's your favorite client. My favorite client is going to be, that 20, 21-year-old, unknown athlete who's never worked out before, and they come see me, and the first 6 months they're like, they've blown up, right?
Right.
Favorite athlete, because it makes it look like I did all the work.
Right.
Then you got, not necessarily my worst, but you got like the older person who's like, I can't get out of a chair. But one of the more rewarding things, though, is they get out of the chair.
Right.
Like that on session 1. You're like, I can't get off this bench. You put them on a bench over there, and they cannot get out of it themselves.
Right.
You show them the right way to get out of a bench, and all of a sudden they're getting up within 10 minutes. Like that's more rewarding than that.
My favorite client these days, I've changed my definition a few times over the years, is the person that comes in with a good attitude.
Sure.
I cannot stand like some people that walk in the door and they're like, they don't want to be here, and I'm like, if you don't want to be here, you don't have to be here.
Correct.
You do not have to be here.
Correct.
I understand you want to get in shape and you want to do this, but you have to at least have a positive attitude coming in.
Yeah.
And you have to think about other people you're affecting too, especially as me as a trainer, I'm like, okay, I can't be in a bad mood when somebody comes in. I need to be excited,
Right.
need to be upbeat, whatever. They're here to
Yeah.
work out, and I'm here affecting them just like they're affecting me. It's the
Correct.
energy thing. So, yeah, when they come in here and it's negative, I'm like, God.
I mean, sometimes the best thing for that type of person is to go back home and get in bed. I mean, and honestly, it's not like being, rude to them. It's like, if your day is already this bad, like, go home, get back in bed for an hour, reset your day, and then go to work, and maybe come back in later in the day.
Right.
Like, or come back tomorrow. Like,
Yeah.
missing the gym one day does not matter.
And I understand every now and again you're going to have a bad day because
Yeah.
everybody does. But
Yeah.
I'm just talking about more on the religious, like every day you come in
Correct.
here, it's like
Negativity,
this isn't
talking
going
about how
to work.
bad this is and that is. Yeah.
If you just come in with a positive attitude, man, you can get a lot out of it.
Correct.
Just coming in with a positive attitude.
Correct. Yeah, I've got one of the clients now who life and other things kind of building up, and right now they're not like there's zero lifts going on. There's zero nutrition going on. Why? Because all this is going on. Like, we don't need to spend all this energy and time on this. If this is supposed to give you energy and give you happiness, but right now it's a burden, take it away. Like, if you can go for a walk, go for a walk. Don't worry about lifting for now.
Right.
Take 3 months off. It's okay.
Right.
Right.
You just mentioned nutrition a little bit. What is your nutrition off season? What is your nutrition in season? How do you kind of navigate that path?
So in powerlifting, you got weight classes.
Yeah.
First ever weight class I was in was 181. I'm most competitive at 198. I've done some 220s just to hit like big PRs, but I typically carry between like 205 and 215, like a pretty big 10-pound window there. Nutritionally speaking, and this is pretty much for the last 12 years, like I would say of the 21 meals a week, 16 to 20 of them are like planned and good. Like, I've portioned out the carbs, proteins, fats, and there's going to be 1 to 3 to 5 per week that it might be fast food. It might be still cooked at home, but I don't weigh it or I don't measure it, and that's pretty much been me for 12 years.
I got you.
Pretty consistent with it. I eat the exact same breakfast every day.
Yeah.
Like, it's fast, it's easy, and I know the exact amount I need. When I do my lunches, it's the same lunch Monday through Friday. That week, it changes week to week. And then dinners are still planned, but sporadic in terms of what they are.
Right.
Calorie-wise, I mean, I've ranged up to 3,000. I've been down as like 2,100. But typically, my routine for powerlifting related to nutrition, in the midst of powerlifting, I would do 2 meets a year. I'd have a long off season. I would do a meet at 198, and then I'd have like one more peak of like 2-3 months, and I'd do a 220 meet. So I would watch my diet during the off season to kind of get me close to 198, weigh in at 198, compete, and then kind of grow into 220 class for the next meet, and then do the same cycle over.
How did you develop this plan? Like, you have you're very meticulous about.
Yeah.
Did powerlifting help you develop this, do you think, or do you think it's something maybe with schooling, or it was always there? Like,
probably a combination of all of it.
Yeah.
I mean, with
when did you get that meticulous about it? Because that's a pretty thought out plan. Because some people, they don't, people don't think like that, right?
Correct.
They're like, there are some that do,
Right,
but
right.
don't get me wrong. But
no, I don't know like when it happened. I would say, early on it was like, I was 168. So like early on it was just gain weight, get strong, right? So like for a while it was like 2 burritos at the Mexican restaurant for dinner, frozen yogurt on the way home, like every night to get that weight up, to get stronger. That's all my goal was. But somewhere along the way I realized that like I'm more competitive at 198. I don't know, eight or so years ago I got to 220 and 225, but I wasn't as competitive as I am now at 198. And so I knew that the 198 class was my class. And so at that point in time, I started thinking about, well, I can't just go ham on food all the time, right? I've got to like rein it in. And so sticking around the 198 to 205 range gives me that window that I can always like drop to the 198 again. So I'll say somewhere 8 years ago, probably clicked for me that I need to kind of stick around here.
Right.
And I probably just start, like I used my Fitness Pal just to kind of start doing that. I mean, there wasn't a big kind of epiphany at any point in time.
Right. When I'm doing my my nutrition, I'm kind of the same way as you. I have this baseline meal plan that I like or I enjoy, and I always like that's my routine.
Right.
And so, and I tell people all this all the time when I'm doing a meal plan for them or whatever. I give them 3 misses a week.
Sure.
And that's still an A in your class, because if I give you 5 meals a day and you get 7 days in a week, that's 35 meals.
Yeah.
If you get 32 or 35, that's still an A in your class. So you're still progressing amazingly.
Correct.
So, and then I tell them, all right, the more you miss, the more your grade starts falling. And that can determine based on, your progress is defined off your grade in school, just like it is.
Yeah.
And but going back to the meticulous, thought out planning, it's like I'm learning kind of to do that a little bit more. I think people need that, like that because you go program off season, and it's very, because you're trying to get to 198 and then you're trying to get to 220. That's very thought out, and
it also makes it easier. So
it does.
Coming out of a meet that you've cut weight from. Now, granted, it's a 24-hour win. So like on Friday, I weigh in at 198.
Yeah.
I compete on Saturday at like 210.
Yeah.
It's really hard to go, all right, I'm at 210 today on Saturday, on Sunday, the day after a meet, to go back on a meal plan. So like you're like, well, I can gain to 225 and cut to 220 for a meet. So it just makes my life a lot easier for that second meet. Plus, adding on a 10 or 15 pounds, you're going to be stronger.
But you front loaded, and I'm sure you got your program figured out exactly for
correct.
Because you probably meet in probably May or April or something like that, and then you do like September or something like that.
The 2 meets?
Yeah,
around. Typically it's like September, December.
Okay.
I just like those dates.
Those 2 dates.
It just feels good for me.
And you probably have your program developed for January. You want to do this and this.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always, so program-wise, there's always a program.
Right.
For me. Some clients don't like that. Some people don't like that. But like for me, there's always a lifting program. If it's an off-season 16 weeks, around week 14 to 15, I'm looking back at how the 16 weeks went, and I'm looking at like, well, what didn't work, what didn't help my bench, what didn't help my squat, or what did. And then before this program's ending, I've already got my next 8, 12, or 16 lined up. And then that cycle kind of continues until I say, all right, it's time to look for a meet, find one in September. And my typical routine is 16 weeks before meet. So I'll find that date, back date 16 weeks. And that last one, I'll say, well, there's only 10 weeks to that date, and I'll do a 10-week program and then start my 16-week for me.
When you do your program, is there a certain amount of, do you do a certain amount of, I'm sure of it, but this is for people that may not know, a certain amount of compound lifts and a certain amount of accessories, and then is that certain amount the same every time? Is it like, let's say, for example, your back day, you do 3 maybe compounds and maybe 3 accessories. Is it that detailed to where you script it kind of like that? And
for me,
3 and 3? Oh, no.
For me, no.
Okay.
For clients, yes.
Okay.
Right. So I've got, like, way back here in this filing cabinet somewhere.
Okay.
I've got client A who doesn't want the weeds and all the detail.
Okay.
So I'll tell them this 35 rule.
Okay.
Right. You're gonna lift 3 or 5 days a week. Each day you're gonna do 3 to 5 lifts. Each one of those you can do 3 to 5 sets.
Okay.
All totaling 35 reps.
Okay.
So if you stay on the low side, you can do 10 to 15 reps. On the upper side, you're doing 6 or 7 reps.
Right.
And so that's a simple. Here's what you can do. I give them nothing. That's all I give them.
Okay.
35. And then you've got this right here where you're like you said, I want you to pick 2 of these 10 compound lifts.
Right.
And those will be your program things. I want you to pick 2 of these compound lifts. Those are your extras, or your supplementary, what I call them. And then I pick 4 or so, 3 or 4 accessories. And that'll be 3 or 4 days a week. So it'll be 2, 2, and then 4, 3 or 4 days a week. And what I normally do is I give them options. So instead of saying Monday is bench and bent over rows, I'll have a list of 10 of your top 2 lifts. You just pick 2. Just pick 2 of them.
Right.
But you mark them off. And by the end of the week, you should have hit most of these. That way you're not doing bench 3 times a week.
Right. Right.
And then the same thing with that second tier of stuff. The second tier of stuff is going to be your 5 to 8 reps rather than your strength stuff. And it could be bent over rows. It could be leg press. It's just compound, but not necessarily main lifts. And then the accessories like your whatever, tricep extensions, curls.
Right.
Yeah, so that's the other type of client I'll have. And then the third type is that full on, you're getting bench press this week. You're doing 2 sets of 3 at 300. Next week you're doing 2 sets of 2 at 310. Very detailed on your main lifts, very detailed on your second lifts, and the accessories. I normally keep it simple, just 3 sets of 10, 15, make it heavy.
And how do you and I know we kind of touched on this at the beginning, but how do you determine that based off your initial kind of communication with them the first 3 to 5 times?
Yeah.
And is there some that maybe like you feel like maybe they're an A, but they could possibly be B? And when do you transition them to the different ones?
It depends a lot on, like you said, that first initial, whether it's the sit down meeting when we just have our like, do you want to be my client kind of meeting,
Right.
or it's that, you know, like the first 3 sessions or the first 5 sessions are up, and we're having this conversation of like, if you want to continue with me, I do think you need to come to this B section. And I'm in a position where I can say, if they say no, I want to stay here, I can say, then I don't want to be your coach anymore. I'm in a position where I can do that.
Right.
So that's okay with me.
Right.
If I think you're here, I want you to be here. You know, if I'm going to enjoy coaching you, you should be here, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's just part of the conversation.
How do you? I know you don't do much, but how do you promote this? Like, how do you tell people? Just kind of word of mouth, kind of
word
thing.
Word of mouth, yeah.
Man.
Yeah. I mean, you know, having a garage gym helps in the sense that, like, you know, some of our friends can come over and work out, and then they get into it.
Is this something you'd like to do more? Like, I'm not going to say take up all of your time, right?
Right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're very selective with the people you want to choose, and you can only take on so much because you got 2 kids, you got a normal job, you got a wife, you got all these responsibilities. But have you thought about that, or what would?
Yeah, I mean, if my garage gym was detached from my house, whether that's 50 feet away or 2 miles down the road somewhere else,
right,
I think I'd be more inclined to take on more and be more open to like growing it.
I got you.
Full on. The virtual side of things, you know, I would take on, you know, I could double or triple the number of people I've ever had, just because it's virtual. I can expectations are set that I'm personally gonna reach out to you at least once a week to tell you what you're doing this week, and then I'm accessible via text and email within 24 hours, the whole program.
Yeah.
So I mean, and I can help anybody with that.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, the only way it's been word of mouth or friends. They just happen to be like, one of the people I coach went to a commercial style gym, more of a boot campish style. It's not really commercial. Like, you can't just like drop in and work out. You have to kind of attend the class.
I got you.
And they saw, and part of their program was lifting, and they enjoyed it. And so they got a coach, and that coach, you know, had some other obligations. And then she kind of turned to me and was like, "Well, can you pick this up and kind of finish it out for me?" And I did. And then now we've done our second meet together. So
gotcha. Yeah.
This is word of mouth, and it's being accessible and available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got a knack for it.
Yeah.
Seriously, I don't understand why you're so passionate about it, and you speak.
I do like it.
Yeah, a lot. Not saying I don't like it, but powerlifting is more your niche thing.
Correct.
And it's like, man, you could, a lot of people could use this, or they'd have to be very serious with their lifting too, which is, I'm not going to say it's rare, but it is rare, isn't it? Because most people that work out, are rare. If you think about the numbers.
Right. And fortunately it's growing, like we just talked about with Instagram and social media, and the excessive information, it's there now. If you look at like truly how much time you spend working out, how much I spend working out, there's so many other things that people do more than that. Like 4 days a week, hour and a half. You're talking 4 to 6 hours a week. That's all I do. Right. I mean, I walk, I'm active, but truly go to the gym and work out, you're talking 4 to 6 hours a week. It's not much time.
It isn't. It isn't.
You devote more time to your 3 TV shows a week.
But it's the thing about the effort, that it takes. That's the thing.
It's just convincing somebody that it's worth it, and that time, and you can manipulate your day around it. But you can't make it, do it for them. You can't tell them to do this, this, and this, and come to the gym. You gotta let them do that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. And the thing with like growing, taking powerlifting and taking that passion and growing it, like I've seen so many guys who like as knowledgeable, if not more knowledgeable than I am in the world of it, and like they build a gym that's just powerlifting.
Yeah.
It's possible just because. Like, if you are knowledgeable enough at it and you've got a following enough or a big enough population around you to do it, it's possible.
Yeah, it is.
Just like CrossFit, just like bodybuilding.
Where are you living at? Where'd you move to?
Timberlake.
Hey, you like it?
Yeah, it's great.
Love it?
Yeah.
How far is it away?
From here, it was
Yeah.
like 32 minutes.
Oh, okay.
That's not bad.
Is it more towards Roxborough?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like between Rougemont and Roxborough.
I got you.
And it's, I mean, we're in a neighborhood, so we've got, neighbors and a community feel. And then, like, but outside the neighborhood is
And you,
trees.
and you work out only at your home gym, or is there's a gym you've been going to? I've been seeing.
Yeah, so it's at my job.
Oh, okay, it
Yeah,
is.
so and that's a whole nother thing too. Is like it's a community center, and so a smaller budget in terms of grand scheme of things because we're just helping the community out, nonprofit and all. But I was given some money to like outfit this space. It was a 25 by 25 room that was used as like a spin room back in the day. And then during the pandemic, it was like a small group training, like 3-on-3 kind of max training room. And then for the last year, it was not used. And so like, what do you want to do in here? And I was like, well, let's get some rubber flooring. Let's get 2 squat racks. Let's get some dumbbells, some adjustable benches. And so we just outfitted it, spent, $10,000 or so. But
Yeah.
it's a nice gym now.
Yeah.
We have a fitness center downstairs. It's like your typical
I got you.
treadmills and
Yes.
machines. But upstairs now we have this like functional space.
It's more personal.
Yeah, we can take a client up there and get away from like the hustle bustle of your typical gym atmosphere, or I can take like I've got this program there now where I call it Barbell 101. It's made for somebody who's just trying to get back on track, somebody's already been lifting or whatever, or that person who's like, I'm afraid of barbells, they scare me.
Okay.
And so like get them into the gym. I want them to use the space. The more they use the space, probably the more budget I'll have down the road.
Right.
And so like why not fill the space up? So
Yeah.
doing that class now.
Excellent, sir.
It's working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got anything else you kind of want to cover? You want to go over? One of the things too that help the community is people that are so passionate about it, like you. That is one thing that speaks so positively, so radiant. You have a master plan. You have goals. You set it out, and that can make people that helps.
Yeah.
That's a part of it. The more people we have.